당도 다 전주 심지어 탐지교 된도 상요고방 토벌쇼 선비게 장수 샘게 산에 되네 전주 선비 쥐발 라야 되나 다 진비념네 수준념네 수비념네 준주념네 삼대념네 시럽념네 진짜 또 파신주기념네 라비아레시 다 파신주기념네 라야라 당보다 아주 진비념네 걸 념네 제야디 라비아디 전주 샘바남게 당보 진비념네 파신주기 진비념네 념슬린 거레스 지사진에 자다 진비 진바세야지 당아주 동외 셈바 조아주 검야지 동외 셈바 셈바 검야들이 같이 소수규류 롱주나지바 차상 샹리아 제구야 권조를 초프에다 샹라 당기 선비기 동외 셈바 검야디 셈바디다 진바들이 디사야네 야도 섬다 검야디 당아주 진비님는 제바레야지 진비님는 세야지 아 디시 그신 디고 쉬루와 당아주 진비님는 걸
Good evening. So continuing to look at the trainings of bodhisattvas, a bodhisattva being a being who's given rise to a powerful determination, a determination that's uncontrived, to strive to become a Buddha so that they can lead all beings to a state freed of suffering. The bodhisattva then, having generated uncontrived bodhicitta, in order to actualize, to attain their set out goal of becoming a Buddha for the sake of others, they engage in the activities of a bodhisattva. They train themselves in the practices of a bodhisattva. And these are the 6 perfections. They train in generosity, ethical restraint, patience, joyous perseverance, concentration and wisdom. And amongst these 6, the first is generosity. We started to look at generosity a couple of weeks ago, and we saw that the entity of generosity is the mind of giving, the mind wishing to give. So this being a consciousness, one cultivates it, gains habituation or familiarity to it in meditation. So this is how the bodhisattva trains in generosity. And what in meditation do they imagine giving to beings to fulfill their needs? It's all that they have, whether their body, their resources, their roots of virtue, all that they have, they offer to others so as to alleviate the suffering of beings and for them to achieve lasting happiness themselves.
di gomgoya di nga zugula chiki sena se chungoro sena odedi ngi chanle tegi me chanle ro chigi me chanle pemba du me sembegesa sena choro wajisa di sena de nyomo ba chagore 지산 디 되차고 공로 차고래 지산 디네 전 디메바 수요고라 디메바 수요라 디 도초 파당기 선배 동외 선바의 로장고 디네게 로디 장바 마자바이나 만주기 파 고가 브라바이네 샹리아 로제 투구요 말아 가지래 지금 오당아랑 구구도 잘 지금 메선베기 세나기 더 세나제 여바이나 샹리아 오소 라레 판도 투구요 말아 마도반자 세나디 메바 수요라 만주 삼로 가르도 데 세나 메바 수요데 가지고 면주진의 메바 수요 메바래 제가 메바자 당아주 세나디 삼로 심지 자 삼로 로지 자 디 메바 수요라 디 도초 로지 검진 메바 수요고래 제가 세나기 메바 수요 도초 검야디 만주 동위 선바디 자야 다하라는 말도 서버 공백에 세나메가 쇠두고 말해 제가 디네 인자 동위 선바디 장에도 군이 도초 차고 제가 동위 선바디 야기로도 세나도 슈충충 주고 그래 제가 디네기 세나디 메바 차바 슈충 가지 줘바이네 디 소소를 고가 려바이네 샹리아 판도 제람상 제투고 투고와 디네 인자 가지고 당보 자야 될 냠는 준비 냠는 지에서 당보 그 동위 선바디 로리아 자야 공들 제 당긴 선비게 삼는 두스네 삼는 고미야디 차고로 와디 공부 비김제를 차고래
Generosity is a virtuous mind, and the cultivation of a virtuous mind serves to weaken the contrary afflicted mind. The contrary afflicted mind to generosity is that of miserliness. Miserliness is the attitude that holds us back from helping others where we could, or at the very least, giving rise to the sincere wish to help others, even when it's beyond our means, at least wishing we could help them. So it's miserliness that holds us back from giving material, using our material goods to help others where we can do so, or giving them guidance or assistance where we can do so. It's miserliness, this affliction that holds us back. So how does one overcome an affliction? It's through the cultivation of the contrary mind. What's opposite to miserliness is, of course, generosity. So the stronger this contrary attitude is, the weaker the afflicted mind will be. Similarly, the stronger the affliction is, the weaker the contrary virtuous mind will be. And this is the same throughout the way to approach the abandonment or the reduction in strength and frequency of the afflictions. So, for example, if one's making great effort at developing patience, having strong patience will not overcome miserliness. Rather, the mind that is contrary to miserliness, generosity, it is that overcomes miserliness. So therefore, we can think of this process. Here the context is generosity and miserliness, but it works elsewhere too, as like a scale. The stronger our attitude of generosity, our wish to give, the weaker our miserliness will be. And the stronger our generosity is, the more readily, wholeheartedly, we'll embrace an opportunity to be of benefit to others. And in fact, we'll seek out those opportunities, wanting to be of benefit to others. So this is why the Bodhisattva and we too should train in generosity.
ane sansengi jimba tanya sayadi jimba no somsiura tene tongwe semba chane nga ju sosugi yenten xingba chugi dai xianlia xieje lapjong zhe xianlia xingju ba de chugi jimba chegoro tene mijibi jimba sene ji xiangi sosugi da jige pa luyu kone beje dangwei na da ane ji sosugi benjo tone beje dangwei na de xian so gyoya lia ane gyoba ina gyoya di ane 다 미지비 짐바체고래 되네 안지 소소르게 다시 해 샬리아 안에 칼라다 안둘로다 안데니기 벤저 맨기 림베도 두치네 가지 돈 로버제디 다데니 제디다 산싱기 짐바체고디 동위 셈바이 장세위기 디고고소 라렌 다이디 차고로 와데 디죠.
So, as I mentioned earlier, the entity of generosity is cultivating the wish to give. So it's generating and gaining strong habituation with this wish to be of benefit to others, to help others. And the stronger this is, the more readily we will help others. And not only that, we will help others with sincerity, not out of a sense of obligation, something that we feel we ought to do, but what we want to. We want to help others. There are three divisions to the practice of generosity. The generosity of giving the Dharma, the generosity of giving fearlessness, and the generosity of giving material goods. And these we train in meditation, cultivating the wish to give in these various ways, imagining instances where we can give, or we, at least, even if we don't have what's required, have the aspiration to be able to help. And training ourselves like that, when the opportunity comes our way, we will embrace that opportunity, help others. So the first, that of offering the Dharma. So here, in dependence on the good qualities of the Dharma we've cultivated within us, we may teach others, we may give them advice or guidance, and in this way, we practice the generosity of giving Dharma. That of giving fearlessness. This is helping those beings whose life is in danger, who's suffering tremendous anxiety due to their life being threatened. So here, we would use our body to help others whose life is in grave danger, or would use our material resources to perhaps purchase food or medicine for those whose life is in danger. And that of material generosity, well, this is where we use our material goods in other ways to ease the burden of suffering of others, to help others. So these then are the three types of generosity.
Adine zada donda dinma da jerim chige lam rim duden nala karsong warasena dan dire donda jiba chagor kisan suya dire Dedere yang che lamien sirwa, jimba zhuyu rekong yishin nor, sirni duba jubi chunja chok, mashum ningdub gebe gyase ju, nyenbi zhaba chochur zhobe shi, dedere she ne luidang long jue ge, yonsu tongwi, ane lamsang kebe dens, ane song yarda.
Now turning to the text in the middle of page 40, we're coming to the end of this section, and as elsewhere, this ends with the verse from Lama Tsongkhapa's Song of Spiritual Experience that is being commentated on here. So you have this in the middle of page 40. I'm going to just read an alternative translation again, which is a bit more literal, which may help with Genla's explanation, but there's no difference in meaning. Generosity is the wish-fulfilling jewel that fulfills the hopes of all sentient beings. It is the best weapon to cut the constricting knot of miserliness. It is an undaunted activity of the bodhisattva giving birth to heartfelt courage. It is the basis for the proclamation of praise and renown throughout the 10 directions. Knowing this, the wise rely on the excellent path of giving away entirely their body, possessions, and virtue.
다들이야 짐버 주비 레고 이신 노르 세오래 짐버 세디 주비 레고 공와스네 주비 레와사데 먼저 조와 심쟁기 레고 카요스네 둥아세단 디기 주비르와다 당아주 둥아세데 카렐라네 당아주기 지게 변주기 두로 메비 둥아 아니 사야도에 메비 둥아 직면주지 면주기 메비 둥아 강바 메비 둥아 되네게다 튕기 망보정아도 지대 지밀이야 튕기 망보지 튕기니 마당비 강아 망보시는 거로와 지산 디 강아디 다 저 미차상게 저 심제 가르쳐 데니가 칼라 저도인데 저도 동아 세게 돈달라 칼라라야게 저와 쉬우자고 칼라데라야게 저와 자고래 당한수기 예지게 강하게 예지게 마다 요 강아체도 예지데라야게 저와 자고로와 지산 저와 자반자 당한수기 예지라야디 저기 튕긴 나야디 용야데 가서 짐베이 되고 그래 짐발을 때는 용고 그래서 지산 짐발을 때는 용한자 짐바디 담바 짐비 냠는 제바이나 안디기 조이비게 제바디파 줍투 그래서 저거 공서 저거 줍투 그래서 저거 줍 그래서 근데 20노브래 20노브 나시래서 당아저 20노브 세대가 주다 당아 저기 지게 세르당 도지 팔람으로 지 찾아봐이나 당아저 세르당 도지 팔람 지여 봐이나 안디 바종치네 디기 튕기 무기 도내가서 강보소야라게래 모전야라게래 둘로냐라게래 당서 참여도야라게래 차상 안에 내가 면주시야라 차상 직간줄리디 치 튕기 도내 차상 될때는 두고로와 제가 이진 너버서야 들어와 온디나시레스 지상 안 저기 튕기인디게 등이 약고용하라 짐발데 용고래 짐발데 약고 제바 있는 짐발 될 때는 르위게 레바디 데바디 줍투부리에서 그래.
Starting with the first line, generosity is the wish-fulfilling jewel that fulfills the hopes of all sentient beings. The hopes of sentient beings refers to the longed-for happiness that all beings instinctively yearn for, as well as this instinctive desire to avoid all suffering, misery, and frustration. So this is a hope that all beings have, to abide in lasting happiness, never punctuated by a moment of misery. Here, the meditator developing generosity within them, generosity, that mind of generosity, serves as a wish-fulfilling jewel that fulfills the wishes of others, the hopes of others, from the perspective of the being who's suffering and in need of help to fulfill their needs. The wish-fulfilling jewel in the mind of the practitioner, is, the mind of generosity of the practitioner is like a wish-fulfilling jewel for them, because their hopes are fulfilled by the practitioner. So having trained well in the cultivation of this wish-fulfilling jewel that is the mind of generosity, the practitioner readily embraces opportunities to ease the suffering of others, to benefit others, whether it's using material conditions so as to sustain life, ensuring that beings, for example, have sufficient nutritious food, clean water, accommodation that's safe, and so forth, to ensure that beings, at the very least, their basic needs are met. The fulfillment of that is done through the cultivation of the mind of generosity that here is likened then to a wish-fulfilling jewel.
Tobi dunga sheba inada kokan sahe kala chirakudu sembe rewa chiyor bada tanga zugi zulia jige tongwe sembar chuna ropa jigin sembe shanlia ro jigin be samlo sheba ina dene ji ganga tongba ina nga zugi gang tutu ge sosugi nubala babegi ro je tuye yungurwa dan janju semba nam yidin nangorwa da je tuye yungurwa ta 제자디 동외 sembar jigin sembe samlo meba ina nga zulia ko roji nuba shebe kolya roji marwa 제가 ko kalati marwa kalamate bena ko kal jodo be kala setu go ma dene inzada ngaza tangi sembe samlo jang ba za denigi jang ba ina denigi jodo ba da denigi kyabe dunganyo digela andu su ro ko khapre konzulya kalate ya dulwate ya da andini menjije du cheyodu oda ko kala na sambe rewadi ne kala rasore ne kala ran jodo be dunga seya dene dulo kurare dungolo kora dulo rewa kyabana dulo raru ko menjije rawan maje 지상 konjugi rewa dugo 지상 konjulya andiki dugore konju kanga seya ra andiki dugo aso ko da dadi sansingi jinpigi toane shiki shigor da de ganzude
It's important here to emphasize the great need to cultivate the mind of generosity because its independence on the strength of this generous attitude, the wish to give, the attitude to give that one has, that one will engage in giving. For example, someone who's cultivated the wish to give or has a natural inclination from previous cultivation to give to others, when they come across a person or an animal who's hungry, they will spontaneously give whatever surplus food they have to others, and they'll do so with ease and with joy and sincerity. But a person with an equal abundance of resources, but who lacks the wish to give, they will perhaps not even see this opportunity, or if they do, they will not take it. They may come up with a reason for doing so, or they may just walk on by. And the difference between these two people is not one's wealth or abundance. Here they're the same. The difference is the wish to give or not. And the stronger the wish to give, the greater effort one will make to help others. It won't just be when it's really easy for one to do, but one will overcome obstacles so as to help others. Ensure that all those one encounters, they have sufficient to eat, they have suitable clothing, medication if required, and so forth. In this way, material generosity is practiced, but in order to do so, requires the mental attitude, the wish to give.
타나 사베 레와 슈치무게 거로와 베 슈치무게 yaptıyorum. 제가 데네기 아니 제가 주게 어디 니제 선배 거기다 소도 교바는 수 어디 교바이나 아니 그 레와디 가루서 델레 타나 선배게 레와 시무게 제가 시설에 데네기 델레 타완데 마시월 하기를 선배게 레와 탈두게 선배 레와 시무게도 데 나주게 소들 교바이나 코레와도 주바래 제상 코레와도 소래 타와래 제상 코 인간주 미시비 침바 차고래 제상 디니자 아니 코레와도 콜이야 디기 용고와 디나시 네바로지 맨주게 제메네 강아시우 나제 갈래 하보여리 바이나 디니나제 데랭 직시사라지 다 데네레 나제레 타고도 선배 레와시우 침보여나 인간주기 데네야 맨주이 돈에 로바체나 도스체베나 코소레 교바이나 dengue michibi chimba chegore na lumba khaji be saya no ya doshi ten dobi to doshi tege denege nyanga dil gyoba ina na ji michibi ko sole gyoba michibi chimba chegore kolya kala de sie te ba inza an sa sing chimba chegore sa sing chimba michibi chimba iga 지상 혼자 reho gong sia di michibi chimbi 하는 혼자 reho gong ya di chegore wa
With the second type of generosity, that of giving fearlessness, this too is dependent on the quality of the wish to give, this mental attitude. Because an illustration that or a situation that we likely to come across from time to time is if in a pond or in a puddle of water, an insect has fallen. Perhaps their wings have become soaked and they are now trapped. They cannot get out of this desperate situation. They are fighting for their life. And whilst we as a human, we look on this situation, and this little bug really doesn't mean all that much to us. From the perspective of this being, their life is about to end, and they can do nothing about it. If we've cultivated the wish to give, the mind of generosity within us, we will do what is required. We'll stop what we're doing, we'll bend down, and we'll help save this being's precious life. And if it's a little difficult for us, if we've developed only a weak mind of generosity, we may give up. But if we've developed a stronger mind of generosity, we'll make the effort that's required, as long as it's within our means. And so in this way, we fulfill the hopes of this sentient being. We bring happiness to this sentient being. And likewise in other circumstances, where we perhaps either directly or through charities, we would perhaps either directly assist or through charities give money that help with fulfill medical needs for people who don't have access to skilled practitioners or good medical treatment. Or those who live in a place of conflict. If we either help directly or we help through charities, those beings who are in such danger, we can help them. And the stronger the wish to give, this wish to be of benefit to others is within us. The more readily we do so, the greater joy in doing so, and the larger the obstacle will be that we overcome to help others.
Kusikarsu ku jawa karsan chue nyamlin chiya chue nyandu ki dyoba yoba zandigi ma chue sheba jimba tawa na chue sheba na dine ko dyoba rawa kongwa chagwar dine ki rawa kong se zhuwe rawa kong se di ndu se chagwar wa da chue ki jimbe tone.
And similarly, with the third type of practice, a practice of generosity, that of giving the Dharma. Here, the stronger the mind of giving is, the more readily we'll share the Dharma with those who have an interest in hearing about the Dharma or who have a wish to deepen their practice. Again, the stronger the wish to help, the stronger we will be, the more readily we will help others.
An zhuyu rewa kong se de da soso rang le jawa ina soso ina dewa dugo dunga dugo marwa jesan dewa dugo dunga dugo mar dewa se de gidi ina dewa dugo ma da dadinga dewa ina jamana kanga yona digre samgo sujo marwa gidi ina dewa go tingi dewa du go gore dunga se de gidi ina go mare jesan go me ba za soso ina disa jimbe nyamlen jine shanlia de jiga soso gi lui long jo cha shal tang sanbe dongye senba jang ne an digi jang na nen sosu rang ge gang tu ki sosu gi nibe gang jo ge shan lia chu gi jimba de ya tang ya an je sa sing gi jimba ta ya an ji mi ji bi jimba la so ba de ni gi jimba je ba yin na ga ryong lo sin che de le na sosu yin ne che de le ne ya sosu le gi wo ya ta an ge wa chi ma ga ha ge wa yin ne ya an digi je bu long jue tun gen de ge ya wo ya an ji on du se ne 용구리 제가 디네자 튠게 야고용 바이나 안 소수기 사신기 진바 따비기 아니 마음바나 소수기 튠게 야고용야 아니 취기 진바 따비기 소소한 마음바나 취기 냠렌지 야고용야다 현리야 취 덴바이네 안디기 판도 침보용야 데 미지비 진바 따비기 진제비게 안 마음바나 소소한야 내나지나 용용용야 안지기 되네기 되 나지를 중베나 람사 나지디기 레라고지 자투야 안지 체령고 용야 안데니기 용구레스 제상 소수 삼다베네 내가 데네 삼다베네 딘데 용구레스야지 내가 삼네 Denigeda, Sosu Kunolia, Sanji Koban, Tobi Childo, Janju Simju Gune Laji, Denigi Jimbenium, Chebaina, Denigi Jimbati, and the Sanji Koban to Gucha, Tarbata, Tamjika, Sanjo Koban to Gucha Gores, and the Mohombana, and the Simja Tamjila, Digi to be a Truptuyagi, and Gucha Gores, Deneza, Sosu Rawadi, then the Truptu Reje, the Rawakong said, Sosol Chava Neda, Sosol Jimbenium and Java Sosolia, and the Javatin Truptu Roda.
The first line again. Generosity is the wish-fulfilling jewel that fulfills the hopes of all sentient beings. So when one in whatever context sees this expression, all sentient beings, remember it includes yourself as well. So here we can see from this line is that generosity also fulfills our own hopes. Because we, just like all other beings, long for happiness and freedom from suffering. And not just temporary happiness, lasting, stable happiness. No one who is experiencing happiness says, oh, I can't wait for this to end, I want more problems. We want our happiness to last. We don't want problems to arise at all. And generosity helps bring this about for ourselves as well as others. So through training our mind, cultivating the wish to give, this fulfills our own needs in that especially through expressing, but not only through physically or verbally acting out under this mind, but even the mental process leads to the accumulation of virtue and happiness in this life, and when that virtue ripens, happiness in future lives. So we can appreciate that through generating the mind of generosity, the wish to benefit, being a virtuous mind, we experience happiness now. Likewise, if we act out on that when we're benefiting others, we experience happiness now, in this life. But moreover, through the karma we accumulate, when it ripens in our future lives, happiness is achieved. For example, through the practice of giving of material resources, in our future lives, we will have an abundance of material resources. We will not suffer from poverty, but we will have an abundance of material resources. From the generosity of giving fearlessness, then the karmic ripening result we experience in the future is that we'll have a long lifespan. We will be healthy throughout that lifespan. Where we do become ill, we will quickly and easily heal from illness. And then through the generosity of giving the Dharma, in the future lives, when those causes ripen, we will easily meet the Dharma, we will train well in the Dharma, and we will have a great interest in doing so, and thereby our wish we will be able to be of ever more benefit to others too. And then if one's motivation for practicing generosity is the motivation of a bodhisattva, the wish to become a Buddha for the sake of others, the practice of generosity becomes the cause for enlightenment itself. So in this way, generosity is the wish-fulfilling jewel that fulfills the hopes of the sentient being, that is ourselves, as well as all other sentient beings too.
Sosolia ane chiki mahomba ine nare ane chiki sosolia roba cheke ane basic pengar sugi kangal thea da ne na su chona delia da do che roba cheke ane tobu yongres ane sosugi lega donda tubu ya de ne donda de ya bu tubu res ane sosugi na chiki longju be ne da chiki twingin de ya bu yongres 아니 샹다 소소고 코르다 데니 샹다이네 거부제가 연구해서 제가 진비기 냠년 지비기 제보디 데네 연구해서 즉 소무도와
The benefits that come for generosity I've just mentioned then, those that come to us in future lives as well as this life. And of course in this life benefit comes to those that we are explicitly or directly helping, that's manifestly clear. But also indirectly, our community is benefited by our generosity because through easing the burden of suffering of even just specific individuals, the community benefits through increased harmony, increased happiness within the community. So thereby, we should understand that the benefits of generosity are broader than what we manifestly see and are direct and has an impact broader than our direct object or the direct persons that we are engaging with, but actually has a beneficial impact on the community as a whole.
지사 세네 뒤버집이 천자 초서 세나 세디게 세나기 뒤버시도 땅으로 저기 베네 키나다 따이나다 타바지기 바다젠 담샤 자베나 아니 고 자나 참참 줘야 되는 줘서 요마로 하다 담샤로 하다 아주 미네 직 타바지기 담샤 샤샤베나 안 줘야 요마로 하다 파서 줘야 요마로 지사 타바 담샤로 지사 디니 상으로 세나 세디 배 세나디 슈체주 몽보여 봐다 다니 가실레 세나 충충 가실 세나 침관지 세나 슈체보로나 가제나 변조 첨보에나 셴레야 로바체 두고 말 지사 어디 가리나 알고 디지 딜레 잘라디 알고 딜레 알고 데는 소소 변조 첨보 가제나 아니 생이 나 고헐 다지 생이 돈이 꼭서 레송체야 디 차데 배 데네 용고로 봐 지사 세네 디게 지고래 지사 동외 세바 장에도 베네 아주 따로 탁발 바다 담샤바나 탁바디 바 지지기 뚝지 제샤바나 니코 따디 코 대바 나신지 봐서 캠도 연구로 와 언디 나시 먼저 동외 셈바데 장용도 세나디 매바서 그래 지선 탁바제 리나신에 동외 셈바디 진바디 진배냐면 동외 셈바 자야돼 지선 내내 동외 셈바까지 장 숙체 장 투비네 세나디 숙충충 두고 그래 지선 내내 인자 아니 세나 숙까지 초베네 소소기 니베 강쪽에 샬리아 로제디 로야지 투그리스 제자다 먼저 세나 매바서야라 다 타바제기 지고바나지 세나 매바서야라 당한 주기디 가서래 동외 셈바 자야돼 야쇼레서 초도 유바레서
The second line, it is the best weapon to cut the constricting knot of miserliness. It is the best weapon to cut the constricting knot of miserliness. So here we can think of, if you think of a knot in the sense of perhaps a dog that has been chained outside a home or a business, that dog has no freedom. It may want to run around the garden or run around the business, but it cannot. Or if its owner goes for a walk, the dog cannot join because the dog is chained. So this dog that is chained, it being chained is likened to the role that miserliness plays within us. Because miserliness is related to the mind of insatiability, where one always wants more. One is hoarding what one has. One's holding tight everything that has, from both the material world as well as our good qualities and our knowledge. We're keeping this to ourselves, not wanting to share it with others. So in this way, our mind is constricted. And not only is our mind constricted, but it's unsatisfied with what it has. We always therefore want more. What we have is seen as insufficient to share with others, which means we also want more. So when one is miserly, one's needs can never be satiated. One can never be content with what one has. And always being unsatisfied, one's mind can never be at peace. So again, to go back to the analogy of the dog, if its binds are severed, it will gain some freedom. It can run around the yard. It can go for a run outside too. So in the same way, the meditator cuts the affliction of miserliness. They gain freedom. They gain freedom in the sense that it's much easier for them to turn away from the concerns of this life, because desiring ever more in this life, which comes with miserliness, binds one to the concerns of this life. But if we cut this afflicted mind, afflicted mind of miserliness, with far greater ease, we can turn away and abandon the concerns of this one mere life.
전부 차고래. 지상한테 미리네 미인네 직부인네 미가시원네 저 변조야 보아니 가신 변조 가신 변조하고 맨날 다 당삼 직사세 얘기하는 거. 가시들 미인 배집이나 lumba 가시나라 배 사야도야 매바 배강아 똑시 주부 교고 똑시 태긴 똑시 조도는 시뒤엔 시 되니게 강아 몽부리고 대소네 아마 지금 녀마게 지금 맞다 녀마가 센나 친구 집에 센나게 되고 최고래. Sentient dunroe ne benanga zu kiro chine na diwa 그 기디기 배미 코로나 사야 노야 되서 야관 민나 신진 튕겨 야보라기도 하디 거서 그런 녀마기 짐바다 위 짐비지부 최고래. 난 number 가시 나는 기배 교고 칼라 마라 니미 칼라 마라체 수보디 약간 보쇼 제 칼라 마라 강 쇼여 된 기망 보여래. 근데 dunro 그래서 거서 녀매기 안 세나 집에 세나게 되고 최고. 당한 저기 통치수요 봐. 당한 저 미마 통어데 이다 세주어서다. 기디나 기에네 마시바도 저것도 배직 되니기 강아체도 이다스 dunro스요다. 이다 세주어서. 제상한 통고면 제가 뒤서 세나 집에 세나 숙청 제비 제부디 차고 되니기 기고래시고. 제가 세나기 제비 제부들라 뭐바나 랑라 튕긴 마다와 세나 제바나 얀래야 튕긴게 강아치고로와 네 지고래 제자다 니 도쇼 진비 냠는 제나 한 얀이게 동아세투야 랑기네 튕긴 야고야게 제부들이 디용고래 제로다 코니 벳코라 도쇼 샤들로와 세나다 진비 삼번이데
The ripening result of material generosity is that in future lives we have an abundance of material resources. And we can see the ripening effect of generosity or the lack thereof in past lives from what we observe around us. Some people are there's amongst people, the material conditions vary a lot. Some are exceptionally wealthy, some are well off, many are comfortable, and a vast number are impoverished. And in some nations, those who are immensely impoverished are of uncountable number. So the ripening results one sees there will be from an attitude of generosity or of miserliness. And this isn't just for humans. Generosity or miserliness can ripen for those in other realms too. So what we can observe is, say, for example, your pets at home. They have, for animals in the animal kingdom, a luxurious lifestyle. They have nutritious food, an abundance of it. In fact, getting overweight is more of a problem than being hungry. And this is a ripening result of generosity in a previous life. But other animals, whether pets or stray dogs or other animals, they can suffer malnutrition. They may die from hunger. This too is a karmic ripening result. And then amongst unseen beings, we can think of those spirits, called pretas. So they suffer unimaginable suffering as a ripening result of formidable miserliness in their past lives. And they are in constant torment from hunger and thirst. And this too is a ripening result. So therefore, we can see as either see directly or understand from the teachings, the contrary results that come from cultivating an attitude of generosity or staying under the control of the selfish mind of miserliness.
아니네. 달리야 마심닝도 계비게 계세주 세워라. 그래서다 마심닝도 계비 계세주 계세기 줘봐 전시 선배 줘봐 세워라다 진배냠는 지사 마심 봤다. 동외 선배들 류로저 차상 심전 전에 당기 선배 샘나 파 장요도 되네고도 장요도 되네 고 닝도블리기레스 거 나줄래 닝도블리고 말아서 어다디 테스트 진짜라 로체스나 나라메와 제 강아체와 선배습니다. 안데 디진한 지 되네게 삼다 연구로와 진짜 어디 나줄이야 제 뽑아로지 닝도블리 두고 말아 되네게도 전에 동의 셈바파 고험제 야네 야도 야네 장도 저거 된 셈래 닝도 필리게 닝도 첨불이 두고 그래서 지난 전주셈 개세기 줘봐 전주셈바 남기 되는 냠는 전에 닝도 리고래 디나신다 마shum 닝도 기비기 개세 줘서 되는 동의 셈바파 장외네 되는 시알이야 벤디 취기 진바다 상생이 진바다 니미지비 진바 다해야 닝도 슈첨불이 두고 그래 닝도 리그래 제래.
Then the third line, it is an undaunted activity of the bodhisattva giving rise to heartfelt courage. It is an undaunted activity of the bodhisattva giving rise to heartfelt courage. So here, undaunted activity of the bodhisattva, so this refers to the activity of the bodhisattva, is this perfection of generosity. So that giving or generosity is an activity of the bodhisattva. And the bodhisattva, having trained well in generosity, they are undaunted in their practice of giving to others. So it's through being undaunted that they have strength of mind or heartfelt courage to overcome problems and difficulties in giving to others, in overcoming the affliction of miserliness. It's through lacking strength of mind that one will allow or one will be overwhelmed by miserliness, thinking, but what if one day I don't have enough? Conversely, through having trained in generosity, one will have the required courage to say, I have all that I need, and an abundance. The abundance I will use for others. So with that strength of mind that comes through training in generosity, one will readily and wholeheartedly be able to help others. One will not be daunted by the task of serving others, of putting their needs before oneself, but will have the courage and the inner strength to readily overcome such obstacles.
ane nyembe chaba sido sosulia ane chik o midi pene penjo thone mi kyo da denile robo chegen denik chobena ane che delia mi chasanga go chene ane ya ane chige o de midi ya go ore ta sede ane lumba khase gale ya chike ki che ko ya go chebi ge ya go chege den ya go ore ya sede pa ane kera cha lumba chasanlia 캡조 그래 제자디 냠베 잡아 소소 깨라 차이기 시디 그래서는 진비 냠는 제들이스 진비 냠는 제바 있나 내가 되는 소소기 즉 냠베 잡아 미사상 빼 야고 뛰어나 따야 돼 야고 용도 세지리 그래서 나디 용구로 bên lumba 지나리아 이게 지미 교다 데네리아 로지긴 디길이야 어디 데네 로고치겐 요르다 스비기데 차산레 디베하고 지고라서는 로고치게 요르스 미시고로데 안 대산의 자기야날 따셔줘 데디 따제 ane kanga tewe na ane yang oda konsul li robo chigi mideso yakwo konsul robo chigi manzo kanga tewe na konsul lawe na konsul robo chigi sembege lodi yishi cheya da denegi jinde nyembe chaba yungures tanga zui sansingi jimbe tone shebe ne da chugi jimbe tone nyembe chaba sosugi chue she den shalya chigi sem pando jeyodu digi tone benanga zuda gyauram chiru chigi 차샤나 지고를 점내 될이야다 점는 가져갈 겨울음 쳐서 한 모간 지요 말다 지저 겨울음 지게 샹리아 팬비 선비 군에 나지 샹리아 안지 팬비 삼로 당당 안에 납체 삼당당 갈방고 나와지 니게 되네 녀비 잡아 차상 캡되고 차고로 어디 나신 땅어주기 되네기 소소기 상승이 진바단 추기 진바다 되네기 안에 미치비 진비기 냠네 지야고 여바이나 안델레된 소설에 냠베 잡아 용그레스 저 냠베 잡아 있는 미쳐선 지후르지고로 미치 지후르지고로 야고여서지.
In the fourth line, it is the basis for the proclamation of praise and renown throughout the 10 directions. It is the basis of the proclamation of praise and renown throughout the 10 directions. So what this is saying is that through generosity, one through practicing generosity and alleviating the suffering of others and bringing happiness to others, one gets a reputation as a kind person, a beneficial person, a person who helps others. And this is of importance because it helps form harmonious relationships with others. So the importance of having praise and renown is that one has harmonious relationships that are based on benefiting others, based on virtue. So this we can see in the world. We hear about and read about philanthropists who help others so, or we read about them on the internet, people who give to others. And not just those who are very wealthy and are philanthropic, but even those who spontaneously help others. We may see these things on YouTube. And we also know from the example that His Holiness sets, that he gives so to others, whether it's through giving Dharma advice, whether it's through giving advice that is more secular in nature, and as well as through material generosity. And his expression of material generosity is far broader than, again, just the religious context, but fulfills in so many realms of life the needs of beings. So these are the illustrations that we know of, and we know of them because beings appreciate assistance when they are unable to help themselves. They appreciate the building of community through the practice of generosity. So these are illustrations that we should try to emulate too.
Dene tong yu senpa chan ne janju senpa nam yu dus chen chen go res dene ge janju senpa ti chan che ane janju senpa cholam ba to jolam ba ti zo de tong yu senpa chan go dene chan dene ge chan ba la dene ane je chan yu ane ji lu lo ka so de chi gi chim ba ta ya san sing gi chim ba ta ya ane mi ji bi chim ba ta ya la le ngo so dus nen go ro wa an di na xin an zo yi bi ne an dus chen ne lui long che so de chibasum je chan tang gi san be dong ye sen ba ba chang da so so rang rang gi da gang tu tu gi da ji gi nu be ga jo gi da chi gi jin ba da ya dan sang sing gi jin ba da mi ji bi jin ba da ya la so ba dus la len ta ba ina di gi je bu di gi da ke wa chi ma nam so nang ju gi da na ju kun lo de le ya ji kun cha shu sang yi go bon tu be chi lo sam da ji kun lo de ni gi sam da wa na de ni gi jin bi gi je bu di 유디 당아서 산주고 봐도 유체고 니기 제보 마음 반나 산주고 봐도 산주고 봐 토용 거래 유체고래 제 산주고 봐도 유 단 내가 섬다바이나 내가 들이야 아니 가지고 소설 내시한 섬다바이나 소수기 되는 동회 선바 장유 여바자 소수 강도 잘라 판보 주요도 현지 강아 세야다 현지 디기 주야래야 판동 오수 여바 아니 지현지 동회 세야다 현지 디기 주요도 ane sosorana ine adangi konsulya digi tutu so tigo ze jik pamo tutu sembe sosolya semya gade yoba an digi sosugi da sosugi Sonam sa an di maze mi shendagi ane da mi digi ngalya jiki robo cheso pemba yabo cheso di cheso sembe ge da sosolya gawuchi ya da sosugi da nyemba yonya deni yongba ina anda sedil samdamena den jungor wada jimbe tawi tongwe sembe nyamne cheba da jimbe ki nyamne kauntu jimbe nyamne chebi tibo de jungor wa deni chigo jolamba de zo lu longjo chasa ya jimbe tangin sembe da khonjugi di zo jimbe nyamne zo changor le se jangjin ko ke la len de kauntu de gor wa che de.
So the training in giving is something that the bodhisattvas on the paths of accumulation and preparation engage in. They give everything that they have, whether it's material or their inner qualities, and using their body too to be of benefit to others. So them being our role models, beings we wish to emulate and become just like, we should train just like they do, and thereby the similar motivation, practice just like they do. And the results are largely dependent on the motivating mind. So it's important to generate a motivation similar to a bodhisattva to achieve enlightenment for the sake of others as best, and generate such a motivation as best we can, because then our practices of generosity, again, whether it's that of material or fearlessness or the generosity of the Dharma, will have the long-term result of having accumulated causes that will lead to the attainment of enlightenment. Moreover, the short-term result is we'll ease the suffering of others. We'll bring greater happiness into the lives of others, and that alone will bring joy to us. So let's set aside the virtue we accumulate for future lives. In this life, through practicing joy, through practicing generosity and bringing benefit to others, joy arises within us. So in this way, we see the benefits from generosity in both this life, future lives, and then the long-term result of the attainment of enlightenment.
다 소소라랑 강도 겨와이네 안 소소라랑 게 살야 튕긴디게 다 지기 현기 안 지기 대시 셰바나 지로화제 지로화제 용하다 소소교 된다 주야 소소교 롱주 가리고 고야 되게 저 롱주 야고 용야 안 소소야 니도 소소를 거부지게 뭐 용야 안도 센디 우용 된다 주고레스 내가 겨 세디기 가서 겨와 치마게 하죠 안디마 탈바다 탐제기 먹고 와도 그래 규칙이 세대시 셰바도 최고로 와당도 군노한테 된대 요번에 자주 셈주 군내 랑제 제반나 탐제기 배상 요고 와도 규칙하고 그래서 지나 되니기 아주 지마 동회 셈바장 소수기 강투도 뒤토네 안에 류지 되니기 네 라는 다비기다 만줄래 좀 제일 막 제볼 마선에 된지 용고래서 그러다
In addition, in terms of our future lives, in dependence on material generosity, wherever we happen to be born in our future lives, our material circumstances will be comfortable. All the favorable circumstances we require, we will have or easily attain. Moreover, in dependence on the appropriate motivation, that same act of generosity can also be a cause for enlightenment. So these are in brief, again, as mentioned earlier, the benefits that come, that will be experienced in our future life, as well as leading to the attainment of enlightenment.
용소 동위게 람상 케베 댄스 디자 데더 시네 세드 답변에 진비게 냠는제 소소 라렌다 되니 제바이나 디기에다 지기 체대다 개와 치마다 되니기 에너지기 류당 롱주 지가소래 그래서 연된되는 연구요 바디 안에 하고네 시네스 하고제 안에 전신바 남기 류 롱주 개와 가래 사마 차상 안에 잘이야 땅이 샘비게 두스네 안 동외 샘바 람상 되네 동외 샘바데 고곰제 케베 댄스네 케바 전주 샘바 남기 두스님네 능고래 제르와다.
Then the next two lines. Knowing this, the wise rely on the excellent path of giving away entirely their body, possessions, and virtue. Knowing this, the wise rely on the excellent path of giving away entirely their body, possessions, and virtue. So what the wise know is they understand the great benefits that come from the practice of generosity, the benefits immediately in this life to others as well as oneself, the benefits that come to oneself in future lives, as well as the benefits that come through the attainment or accumulation of causes that lead to enlightenment. Knowing this, the wise then engage in the training of giving away their body, possessions, and virtue.
And the chicken be in the Jerusalem Nangores, the Nigina Nashing Jebache, some da, the Jimbigi, Pendi do, some dancing, count to me to Siam and Jebais. In Korozi in a Tardu Dajas and a Korozi in a Koyudunga Tarshe, Yasanjo Toba Dugo, in the Toba Joina, Yamlin Dinas and Jebores Daya. No Sungora, Lapcha to Sungaro.
So our text always presents just 6 lines from the root verse, which would have 8. So they always miss out the last 2 lines, which are repeated. I, a yogi who practice in this manner, you who aspire for liberation, should do likewise. So after each training, Gyatso Rinpoche ends with these 2 lines. I, a yogi, have practiced in this manner, you who aspire for liberation, should do likewise. So it's clear what Lama Tsongkhapa is saying here. You, my students, either before me or in the future, follow my example. I train just like this. I have composed this from my own experience. I am training like this, and due to doing so with great effort, I'm achieving results from this. Follow my example. Train with great effort, just like I am.
아니네 자다 진비 냠내세데 베 마세 계침보 예스는 상유 주민들이 제사 진비 냠내데 당보 송와래 제사 알아서리 밀게베네라 가와게베네 기사야 동야다 되는지 강아 태바나 딱 강아 베 강아 침보 제사 되는지 디 강아 마야기 진비 냠내 제바이나 당아주 밀다 dunro 가와게나 사야 동야다 디 강아디 용 말에 제사 되는지 진비 냠내 제월이 계침보레스 안 하와도 안 되네자 당아주 밀게제 현기 현리야 판도지 주고 예베네 소소베 튕기게 마다 강아시고 예베네 소소 판도 주고선의 판도지 두 말했어 소소게 변조 교회네 현리 강아디 로 지긴 선비 삼로 주변에 로 지게 누버요 말했어 아니 소소게 지기 최기 연대 마신 바로 신의 현리 최지 라고섬나 러비 누버요 말했어 지산 되네 인자 현리 판도 주야라양 소소게 튕기게 야고 거래스 지산 되네 인자 아주 진변념에 대한 아주 밀이야 현기 판도 주야라양 아주 튕기게 야고 거래스 지산 튕기게 영야기 튕긴 규디 진변념네 진변념네 때문에 튕기는 용고를 맞아 진변념을 맞으나 튕기 용고 말했어 지산 되네 인자 아주게 탈바다 상계 고방 토야게 탈바다 탐제 김배 고방 토바이네 진변념는 저어디 맞아봐 상계 고방 토투고 말했어 제가 내내 자다 랑라 되베네야 진변념는 지제고레스 랑기 체대다 체치마라 현례 판도 주야다 현기 동아세야다 강아세야기 되네 삼다베네 진변념는 지제고레스 가서 튕게 강아세야기 튕게 로주도 고고 제가 내내자 진변념에서 계치면 되다 담보코라는 진변념은 그냥 아주 최념는 제발라 튕게 마다나 아니 자야동에면 자야동에도 내가 줘도고로 제선 최념는 제야려만 되사 강바 말하다 되는 있는 강아티고로 되는자 튕게 디고래 제선 되는자 진변념은 제고래 세디 담보코는 송고바디 되네래 송고로.
The training of generosity is of great importance, hence Buddha presented it first. We can understand this through why generosity is so important in several ways. So we know through the practice of generosity what the kind of ripening results we will attain in our future lives. So through practicing material generosity in this life, we know in our future lives we will have an abundance of material goods. We will not be impoverished. We will not struggle to have all the resources we require. And this, of course, we know is important, but it's also important from the perspective of the spiritual practitioner. Because if one has the wish to continue life, to develop spiritually and be of greater benefit, ever greater benefit in the world, one cannot be born into impoverishment. Because if one is struggling to stay alive, struggling to feed oneself or to have clean drinking water and so forth, one will not have the energy or mental space to engage in further spiritual development, and one will struggle to be of benefit to others. Therefore, to continue our spiritual development in future lives, we need to create the causes to have, at the very least, material comfort in our future lives, so that we don't, or to have our material needs fulfilled in our future lives, so we don't have to put all our time and energy into attaining just the basic requirements to sustain life. And thereby, we will have the opportunity, with other causes accumulated, to be able to engage in the cultivation of the Dharma. Moreover, in dependence on the wish that we have now to be of benefit to others, if we practice generosity well and we therefore have an abundance of material goods in our future lives, the way that we will be able to be of benefit to others is, in addition to continuing our spiritual training, we can continue to practice generosity to others. We can continue life after life to help those less fortunate around us. So therefore, thinking like this, we can see how the practice of generosity not only will help us attain good conditions in our future lives, but help our spiritual development. We will be able to be a benefactor to others and help others in their spiritual paths as well. Moreover, if we have the wish, either now, to be able to help beings who are suffering, to give them good guidance, maybe even teach them the Dharma, but we know our Dharma knowledge is insufficient and our experience based on that knowledge is lacking, we have to create the causes so that, at least in our future lives, we can do so. So therefore, where we can, we should share advice to others, and that is in accordance with the Dharma and motivated by an attitude of the Dharma. And through our continuing spiritual development, life to life, we will be able to give ever more or ever greater Dharma advice and teachings to others. So here too, we create, through giving Dharma, we create the causes so that we can give ever more to others in lives to come. So here we think about the benefits of this training for ourselves and others in this and future lives, and then as well as the attainment of the final goal. It's to achieve enlightenment, one has to practice generosity. It is a part of the indispensable causes for the attainment of Buddhahood. So in brief, this is an essential practice, hence it's presented first. If in future lives one is impoverished, if one's hungry, if one's struggling merely to sustain this life, how can we hope to put time and energy into our spiritual development? So therefore, we need to practice generosity, train our mind in the wish to give.
소소기 류당 롱저의 계속 찾아나 실 당기 선비기 진변념는 지고를 되네 삼문나의 장국을 해서 이내 류모소 따야디 산지기 전주선바 소람바도 절람바여 류기 진바 나교 말했어 나교 말했은 거래 지자 장야려야 류롱저 류 찾아샹려야 제기 선비 진바 당기 선비 장국을 해서 삼로 장국을 이내 모소 라렌디 류기 대대 진바 방모소 제초고 말했어 제기요 말했어 그래서 전주선바 소람바는 아주 나지 나야 차요래 지자 디네자 류모소 직제 샤바나 따로 제셔는 그 사샤저 소소미야자서 시송으로 지자 디네기 최제 냠는 고급 라루고 와 지자 디네자 류모소 진바 따야기 산예기 가요 가고래 지자 디나시레다 튕기에네 소소게다 진바 당고여서 소소기 외제 삼제 샹라 제샤바나 소소매나 되네 야 튕기에 강아지들 저 최제 고급라고 말 냠내제 고급라고 말 그래서 외제 삼제 다음에고 그 내가도 dwi바도 뒤다 지까지기 따기 마도 되니지 제가 산얘기 아주 전주선바디게 소람바도 졸람지 류롱저 차상 땅에 선반날이야 장고를 류 차상 땅기 네 차고 걸라 차대 샤고 걸라 샤지기 루고 걸로 차상 인고를 제긴 선비게다 땅에서 장고를 이내야 무슨 지겨 말했어 지금 소수게 류진바다 류매바 닝디기 매바 쇠샤나 소수게 최념 고하래 지금 무슨 지겨 말했어 전주선바 파파사사나 되네 류진봉 땅고래 대 땅배나 강아주네요 말고서 되네게 소수게 류땅배나 양자 류나신 주병고래 강아스가 그 나자요 말에 전주선 파발라 류나지 류강발라고 또 바제베네 나자요 말에 아니 양자 나시 수용고
Across the Bodhisattva paths, those on the first two learner paths of accumulation and preparation, they give their body, their material resources, their Dharma knowledge, their virtue to others. But amongst these various objects that they offer, that of their physical body, this they only offer mentally. They don't physically offer their actual body to beings. Mentally, though, when they see beings that eat flesh and that are hungry, they mentally give rise to the wish, may I develop spiritually so that I can give my physical body to this hungry being. If there's to those beings who drink blood, they will generate the same wish. May I become spiritually sufficiently developed so that I can give my blood to those who are in need. But they don't actually give this. And that's because they're still just on the paths of accumulation and preparation. So their bodies are the same as ours. They experience physical illness and pain. But when they come to realize emptiness directly and they enter the Arya paths, the paths of seeing and meditation, then they can give their body, their actual physical body, because they don't experience any physical pain or illness, and their body can immediately regenerate or they can attain a new one. So here, we should train just like the Bodhisattvas, mentally giving our body to others, using our body in all ways possible to help others. And moreover, we should use the meaning behind this, that just like the Bodhisattva offers their body in accordance with their capacity, so too should we. Our capacity for offering our body is on a mental level, and so we should offer it in accordance with our capacity mentally. Likewise, with other forms of generosity, we should do so in accordance with our capacity. We may give rise to the wish to give the Dharma, but if we lack the capacity, offer it, but mentally. We give rise to the wish to offer material goods, but if it's beyond our means, do so mentally. And where we do have, for example, material goods, one should offer what one has in abundance. One should offer in accordance with one's capacity and not beyond that. Because if one offers beyond what one has in abundance, if one doesn't offer in accordance with one's capacity, oneself will go without, and that will hinder one's ongoing spiritual development. So therefore, hopefully what's clear through this segment, one has practiced generosity whilst using our wisdom.
Dina shinda ngao zuine chibare da ngao zuine lu longjo keso chasa ya chibat shan tangi sambige samlo de jahere jahe kechere da pa lalang osu de di ngao zugi lu da shin lu chimba da de chibare yongba da den benjo thoni ne sosol ya je kanga thigi dumida tagi ra chene chimba tang orma da so ade jimbe nyamne jo chasa ta sheben sosol kanga thingro jesa nyamne je sosol cheche ko 라기오 말 드네 자당은 저기 semma 장야데 아주 류롱자 차상 땅이 세전주 sem바나게 자만 하시 난 저도 삼다 다 모수 라는 때디 소수기 변조다 소수기 류의 뒤에 뉴발에 빠베게 토네 삼다에 땅이 두스네 다이로가 제로가 로지에 디죠.
This is an important point because it hasn't been made before, so I'm going to repeat it here. Practice generosity, but remember generosity, training in generosity is cultivating the wish to give. It's a mental process. And then, when you express that physically or verbally, use your wisdom. Don't allow yourself to be overcome by emotion and thereby not practice in accordance with your capacity. Use your wisdom. Practice in accordance with your capacity. Give of your body in accordance with your capacity. Give your merit, give your material resources in accordance with your capacity. Because this is how bodhisattvas practice. They use their wisdom and they practice generosity. So they practice generosity in a far greater way than we are capable. But that doesn't mean they give everything. They use their wisdom, and so too should we.
다야 들이야 바르실마 손에 시요래라래 가리오라서네 이제 진비 왜냐면 진바파 땅에 곰심해 봐시 아니 지게 담아도와 지금 그래서 진비냐면 제마도와 준 그래서 제가 니네 상아주 진바 땅에 충충으로 지네 지기파 지 땅이 제외나 아니 곰시를 차로 그래서 고진바다 곰시운 거 제가 곰시기네 매바이나 진비냐면 제고 말했어 지gle 강아지 가려운 거라서 내가 아주리아 지 튕긴기 강아 소술이야 교오로 지 교이나 니게 안지 견진의 진비냐면 담아도와 준 그래서 지 강아 진바 땅에 강아 되는 돈이 지금 그래서 제가 베네 소소교 어다딩아 뉴뉴마도 메신데 지테는 지 강아체사 삼삼 용구래 제가 니네 용구래서 지라 아니 지베 소소기 변조를 약고나 될레세나 제 착화 계자 등하고 될이야 차제 담아도 용구래서 아니 지 가르용으로서는 데니기 짐바 따비기 제후디 가르용고 하 먹어야지 되는 제후 용거 하 먹어야지 되는 안 제후 다디 따나 제후 용 판도지어 사마라 삼제디 마땅한 용거를 했을 세상한테 짐바 따야기 발실 마소나 데니 히요레라데 마곰바지 소수기 변조 교어를 시제 안 변조리야 차고치 부여바지 안 짐바 따비기 제후 가르용고도 마통하지 하 먹어야지는 마땅한 용거를 했을 때 발실을 되는 용거를 해제래.
There are 4 obstacles to the practice of generosity, or to practicing generosity. The first, then, is having no habit or habituation to generosity. So should one be aware that it's difficult for one to give because of a lack of habituation, then start with something small. Whatever it is that one can offer, even if it's something, whatever it is that one can offer, no matter how small it is, offer that. And in this way, especially through repeatedly over a sustained period making these small offerings, it becomes easier and easier through habituation. So this is the first obstacle, that of not having habituation or familiarity with being generous. The second is that if one is impoverished oneself, if one is poor, one does not have an abundance. It's very difficult to give material goods if one doesn't have enough oneself. The third obstacle is that one does have an abundance of material resources, but it doesn't feel like one has an abundance. And this is because of the predominance of the attitude of miserliness. Then the fourth is not knowing about the karmic results of generosity, and thereby not seeing the benefits of generosity. So these then are the 4 obstacles: not having the habit of genuinely being poor, and thirdly, of being miserly, so having an abundance, but not recognizing that, and then fourthly, not knowing the karmic results.
Dini zada ngā zuki sosuki kiawa sa shepe kiawa diki nishengi tuandala mishanda nyabachi na suli kuya tuandala nguwa kiawa ina dadi ngā zuki kudu dili pene ngā zu kala ruwa zhaya dan dulo zhaya da dini shepe na kudu kolo penpa di ngā zu seibu haku tukuruwa da ngā zuki kiawa sa shepe kiawa diya simchen chedu yinse nguwa kiawa ina 이 네 개와서요 콘솔리아 ngo와디게 간스 펭기리에스 제부 간스 용구레스 셈비게 다 안디 제부 가르요레스 셈비게 디 판도 맨나디 ngo와자고 민두와 셈비게 되는 용루와다.
So we've heard about the various different things one can offer, material goods and physical help, advice and so forth. And especially with these, it's easy to see the benefit that comes to others. This is manifestly clear. But it's also said we should offer our virtue, sometimes expressed offering our virtue of the 3 times to others, or dedicate our virtue to others. So do others actually experience the virtue we offer to them? And if they don't, why should we bother with this practice?
딩오와 자와디 나한쪽에 샬레 소수기 겨와디야 디 제보 디기디 샬레 용어 쇼스비치 샬레 양오와 자완자 딩한쪽에 짐바동 소수기 짐바당송래 진짜 짐바당서 소수리야 겨와사바래 네 겨와사비 마음바나 소수기 데니기 아니 제보 두비에게 마음바네 리고래 마음바네 두야래 데네 안초지네 데니기 소수용어와 자용도 아니 가령 것은 베네 하다 미다 데니기 원시 유현 중에 직파당도 오다 미디기 원에 지게 소수게 겨와사 겨와디한 생기 치동 것은 빼고래샤 선비기 야 델레야 제수이랑 제고래 제 겨와라 제수이랑 제와데 겨와래 제상 소수게 겨왕오기 긴진 미현다 망부질이야 제수이랑 제주바도 혼주길래 겨와 제주바로 제상 니 대고 소수오위기 대고 차고래 생기 류래 제수이랑 겨와데 오위 대고 차고라 안디마제 소수게 데니기 지게 오와자도 상예다 장주선바다 지기네 진원시 시여도 어디게 야고 중소 선비게 지지에도 안 투르야 안지 지금 안쪽에 지도 소수기 두비 쳐봐 차고 제자디 소수리아 인디케와 차고 당 안쪽에 노시네 내가 좀 다외네 디네 판용 거로와
we can think of two temporary benefits or immediate benefits that come from dedicating virtue to others. So the one that comes to oneself is that when one dedicates virtue to others, one has a strong wish to be of benefit to others. A strong desire arises to benefit others. So we accumulate virtue and we offer it to them. And that wish to be of benefit to others is a virtuous mind. It amplifies the virtue we've accumulated, or it's in addition to the virtue we've accumulated. So therefore, the act of offering the virtue to others, the merit to others, serves to increase our own merit, and that will ripen in future lives for us. Secondly, beings with clairvoyance, such as gods or ordinary beings with clairvoyance, as well as the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they will be observing us, and they will rejoice in our attitude, and thereby they too will accumulate merit.
tapi never dile ganz pengidu ula de tanga juge alamne ha goya dile kale khagora chagora 지사 never dile pengidu se koronge 나제로 강아 용고야디 koronge 유 제부 유사시 제부도 민바이나 미용도 내려 싫어 탑시다요 말에 요 말고 지사 이내다 때세 디기 누비 dob이 딱 가르 pen고라서는 소소기 편이 내바디 당한 중고와 잡선이디 자왕아만에 대화로지 예비 약보 여나 딜이야 판도치에다 근데 데네기 연구를 제가 데네기 나저로지 균능부를 연구에나 야 데네기 토네 뉴비 dob이 안에 뭐와 잡아서 디기 뉴비도 있어서 균 통화로 녀야래 데네리아 안에 지 균능부 용어 돼서 통 따야로다 안 데네지 연구를 그래서 안디 마음바나 야지게 소소기 델야 최셰야다 콜로 로버치에 고갑시라디 안에 무슨 라른데 고갑시라디 소소기 녀마기 콜이야 뭐와 잡셔비 디기 뉴비긴 dob전에 콜이야 판도야가 죽투야다 근데 거에 디 죽투가 연구를 했어야지 데니시 제보 판도 용다지 데니야 연구를 받아 라바로 삼다베다 10초 동안 저기 하는 고토야디 가고로 와가지고 원시에 유게한다 또바토디 기디데 야하고 두루와 당한데 매러와다 저 리바로 삼다시고로와 김제로 삼다제.
And also, let's take an illustration then, if one is asked to make prayers for someone who's ill. So ideally one, rather than just making prayers, expressing an aspiration, one should accumulate merit on their behalf and dedicate it to them. So this merit that we accumulate and now dedicate to, let's say, someone who's ill, does it have an impact on them? If so, how? Well, to be clear, it's difficult to know with any certainty for ordinary beings like ourselves. Those with clairvoyance, especially those with powerful clairvoyance, they may be able to tell, because it is an extremely hidden object, how the dedication of merit can have an impact on others. So it's difficult to say with precise clarity, especially in specific instances. So that one needs to be clear on. Nevertheless, though, it's good and one should accumulate merit on behalf of and dedicate it to others, because it can well have an impact. So how can it have an impact? Well, this depends on a number of conditions. Part of the condition, so let's take two conditions. One, let's say it's illness. If the cause that has led to the illness has fully ripened, there's not much that can be done. The karmic seed has ripened, its result is being experienced. Then nothing can be done in terms of eliminating a seed that has already ripened. The result has come, the cause has ripened. But if the seed hasn't finished ripening, the result is being experienced, but the seed still has potency and therefore can continue to ripen in this illness, then one's dedication can have an impact. So here a further condition is required, and that is there's a dependency between the connection that has been established between the person who is dedicating merit and the person to whom the merit is being dedicated. So the stronger the connection between these perhaps two people, the stronger that connection, the greater the likelihood of impact is to be. So that connection can be formed in this life or in a recent previous life or a distant previous life, but it's not likely to be that strong. So the stronger the connection between the dedicator and the one dedicated to, the stronger that connection, the more probable the impact will be, as long as the karmic seed has not fully ripened. And then in addition to this, a benefit that comes to oneself as the dedicator is that in the future, in other circumstances, so unconnected to what one has done here, or explicitly not connected to this circumstance, where one comes across someone else in a similar circumstance, one is much more likely to want to help. Because of the strength of mind cultivated when one is dedicating merit, through that habituation, when one encounters a vaguely similar circumstance, one's much more likely to help.
Bene azuki chue lama jigwa yimbe then lama khashigi kyoran dishe society magic che de lamsa dangdo lanje le je dan lama khashi kyoran dishe shela ne oda dinga dishe ji tansa mara komsa mara se kemele ba yungurwa di ka garsi was koron lama koron ji kyawang amagi di donra ngowan jebi kyawang ngowi debu chego ba bene jarum chero jidan ne severum chero yang zu severum jisodo ojoran losum chusum samdo gore sada 결혼 이게 몸과 사샤선 세버는 송여디 어이 인대인은 다운로드 저 세버는 이제 까나서 당연 제고선 니 제거로 와 근데 제디 근데 샤나지게 지 어결어디 제셔라네 내가 뒤져 검사말 지 남상 킬링 하고 와 디가선 그런 개왕 남이기 델리아 하는 거와지 개와자지 개와사 뭐위기 제불 차고로 오다 무슨랄다 마 직시 시여 되네 남상 당도 렌지마 지 락란 따용 거라디 녀마기 델리아 개왕오미 뭐위 제불 차고다 뭐위 제불 네고 딜레 거라 진짜 jandaagi chik cheba na ko ngowa da dindigi chewa shaa mewa ina yaa chik odi shaa jero chesna antuyo se chike keli majaba dini unguruwa chisa dindigi sosugi suyanam gewa ngamegi gewa sa ngowa jebigi dindigi kole pembigi ngowa jayode dini duidang nyagab gab chik tuyo du delma an zutus chesho se ka naya da dindigido lamsang delya tangdo lenje an chik laklen dade unguruwa di 되게 판도로지 몽바나 되는 유능부 돈에 되는 간중 오와자와는 다들한테 걸려 판도 갖고 용민도 쓴데 샤샤네 지금 말 진짜 되는 간중에 개와사지 되는 오와자와는 몽바나 되는 시텔리아 콜레 판도 지고 고갑신데 얘도 야 될 그 판도 전부 죽투야 연구를 받아 되는 게
So it's difficult to present this a definitive and abundantly clear answer to this question of how dedication of merit or offering of virtue works. But to understand it well, we need to expand our mind. We need a wider perspective, a more far-sighted outlook, not so bound within what we can visibly see within this one life. So to give an illustration that will hopefully serve to show the purpose of accumulating merit and then dedicating it and making prayers in connection with that dedication, as well as intentionally developing connection with beings. I'll give the following illustration. If, let's say, a spiritual teacher gives you advice, perhaps in a teaching environment or directly, and says, do this, it's very good to do this daily meditation or do that kind of practice. And one hears and thinks, oh, yeah, that's probably good to do, and leaves it at that. Or if one hears that same advice and says, I am going to do that. Or if one hears that same advice and says, I am going to do that, and then one does do so, overcoming the obstacles that one encounters, we see a difference there. And this difference comes about in dependence on the relationship one has with their teacher, the teacher and students have in this life, that they have cultivated over lifetimes. So here, I've seen, for example, His Holiness or Lama Zopa giving advice to students. And Lama Zopa, for example, would give to a particular student, for example, you need to enter into a 3-year retreat, or you need to do recite 100,000 Vajrasattva mantras. And where the student receives that advice with joy, overcomes all the obstacles to follow that advice and to follow it to its conclusion with joy, here we know that this teacher and student have developed a strong past life connection. And that past life connection would have included merit that had been accumulated and dedicated to this relationship continuing. So hopefully through this illustration, you can see how these relationships across lives are entwined, and the results or the circumstances of this life come about in dependence on behavior and mental activity of past lives. So if that's clear, apply it to other circumstances. If one dedicates merit to those who are ill or those who are suffering in circumstances or whatever it may be, that will have ripening results beyond this life, beyond what we can perceive. And in general, it will mean that we become the kind of person that as soon as one sees an opportunity to be of benefit or to help others or to spiritually develop further, one will embrace that opportunity. And such an attitude comes about in dependence on the causes created in past lives. Okay, I've gone on a little bit. Thank you very much. You'll finish there. Thank you. Then next week we'll continue on page 40 with the second of the 6 perfections, that of ethical restraint.